we doing here? Woo! Look at all that. What the fuck is that? Hey!
GmbH.
What did you just say?
What's up, everybody? Back again for once in a long time with another video. Maybe you can tell the quality kind of upgraded because someone was kind enough to lend me a very nice camera, so we'll see how this looks in post. Who knows, maybe it's terrible, but I'm gonna guess it's a lot better. So yeah, today is another episode, Jesus Christ, it's like the second one, so can't really say it's a series. But I wanted to do another Genius bar and highlighting a brand that I think is very interesting and something that I've been very vocal about who I think should deserve some more recognition, although, I mean, they're already pretty well known, I'd say. Especially over the last couple of seasons. But it is going to be about the German brand GmbH. Yeah, like I said, I mentioned them a bunch of times. I bought one of their items during the last sale season, and I'm very impressed with all of their work. So I wanted to shine a bit of light on them and maybe introduce some of you to a new brand that you might be interested in. So, first of all, let's go over the history of GmbH for a sec. It's not a really, I mean, it's a pretty new brand, like I mentioned, but GmbH is a brand led by, and pardon me, but I'm gonna butcher these names probably, but it's led by Serhat Isik and Benjamin Alexander Hussebi. Let's hope I pronounced those properly. We'll see. And it's formed by a collective of artists in the Berlin club scene in 2016. There are about 10 to 15 members at any given time, and they often collaborate with other artists in the Berlin scene and even in other parts of the world. The name GmbH itself is somewhat of an interesting topic, and it is an abbreviation in German that stands for Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung. Again, another pronunciation that I'm probably gonna butcher, so anyone who speaks actual German, let me know. But it is basically a LLC in the States, if you're familiar with that. So thus, it is more of a meta name than an actual name, similar to the likes of Vêtements, and it is also a nod to the city's anti-fashion attitude in a way. Now, what is apparent in the root of the brand and in the aesthetic that they portray is that most of their members, including Isik and Hussebi, are immigrants, or they come from an immigrant background. And one of the most interesting things that I learned about GmbH was that although most members did something else before they joined GmbH, or they were in other fields, Hussebi worked on he was a photographer. I think he worked for Dazed and a few other publications, and he did a series about urban plants and weeds, and how weeds sort of became the symbol of immigrant workers, which you can see in some of their work, like the stinging nettle being a sort of coat of armor. Now, if we look at their first collection, they took traditional workwear like German carpenter pants and made them a bit more fitted using vintage, dead stock, or club-friendly materials, which is why you see a lot of vinyl in most of their collections. And besides the apparent influence of workwear in their collections, I've touched on this several times already in a previous video, or videos I should say, there's also a very prominent use of traditional garments from different cultural backgrounds, such as the two-zipped front trousers and Turkish oil wrestlers who have used certain pants in the past and still do probably. And of course the main influence, I would say, is the Berlin club scene in both fit of the garments as well as materials and just overall aesthetics, I would say. The founders also point out that a lot of the construction of the pieces is meant to be to represent a suit of armor for the wearer, and be an armor for their fight, which is the inclusion of transgender people and different ethnic backgrounds in fashion itself. Mostly Muslim people, because Isik and Hussebi both come from a Muslim background, which is also why so many of the pieces represent somewhat of a exoskeleton. When I was discussing the sweater that I bought recently, you had the construction on the shoulders, which was it almost looked like armor plating on the arms. And you also have some new trousers for the upcoming selections, which really represent like exoskeletons from insects almost. And probably one of the more apparent uses of this armor into their garments is the use of chainmail in their Fall/Winter 18 collection, which I will talk about later in this video in more detail. Moving on from just their aesthetic itself in the pieces, the name GmbH itself is so neutral, and so it can mean everything and nothing at the same time, and that is also prominent in their clothing itself. Although they have definite women's wear pieces and definite menswear pieces, I think a lot of it is interchangeable, and a lot of it is somewhat androgynous or is meant to be worn by both men and women. It doesn't necessarily fit into any category. Those are probably the characteristics of the collections that you'll notice right away when you see a show by GmbH or look at a collection or a lookbook. Those are the things that stand out the most to me, and I think to other people as well. And as a little extra bonus, everything they make has a very low carbon footprint, which is always a plus in my opinion. But yeah, that is sort of the overall aesthetic of GmbH, and what I want to do now is discuss a few collections a bit more in detail, or discuss why I fell in love with the brand. And to do that, we have to go to the first collection I saw, which was Fall/Winter 18. What first caught my eye, which is sort of weird and interesting, is I fell in love with their suiting. There was a sort of olive color suit that I wanted to get really badly. I didn't, and to this day I'm still regretting it, and I'm looking for something similar. But that is what really caught my eye, and then later on, as I discovered the brand more and more, I noticed that there's so much more about it that I actually appreciate. And I kind of moved away from my initial thoughts or initial opinion of the brand as I got more exposed to it, I suppose. What is also very interesting to me is the dichotomy between the very neutral and safe color schemes that they apply. A lot of beige, dark navy, blacks, yeah, a lot of earth colors as well, is that they implement a lot of heavy use of prints and pops of color, especially in their earlier work. Like I mentioned, you have the stinging nettle print that they use a lot. You had the chainmail print that they used, and actual chainmails in some of their collections. And to this day, they still implement the same same vision and the same style. But for their Spring Summer 20 collection, their latest collection that they showcased, we saw an increased use of bold colors, and instead of just using pops here and there were a lot of looks that were really intense in color. Although they still had their very neutral and safe colors that they used, there were blues and pinks, just all over the place, entire looks in monochromatic colors. And it was very new to me because I haven't seen GmbH apply themselves in such a way before. But I was very impressed with that collection as well. Although it might be somewhat different in a way, it still has the core essentials of the GmbH brand. What I kind of drew from that was that instead of just protecting people and people who need a coat of armor or a sort of cloak of invisibility with their use of more neutral and safe color schemes, it felt more like a celebration of someone's true identity because they were being a lot more expressive in their colors. They were not shying away from showcasing everything that they could do in a collection, which was very interesting. I don't know if that's actually, but that is sort of how I experienced the collection when I saw it first. In my opinion, their collections have only gotten better over the years. Like I said, I fell in love with Fall Winter 18, and that is probably still my favorite to date. Maybe it's part of me is nostalgia, but I do have to admit that over the seasons I've liked their collection more and more. I was very impressed with their Spring Summer 19 collection, and when I saw the Fall Winter 19 collection I was even more impressed, and it just keeps growing and growing. And I think their Spring Summer 20 collection is fantastic as well, and I'm very curious to see what they will do for Fall Winter 20. And there's countless of looks from both Fall Winter 19 and Spring Summer 20 that have caught my eye, and I'll put them on the screen for you guys. Some of my favorites that I think are really interesting and that sort of embodies the entire GmbH aesthetic. And I'll also show a few from Fall Winter 18 just because it's such a fantastic collection in my opinion. It's a very new brand, like I said, early 2016, so there is not a lot of history about the brand itself, but I am very curious to see what the future holds, and I think they have earned their stay in fashion very quickly. They were nominated for the LVMH prize in 2018. They didn't win, but it is still an accomplishment to make it to that list, I would say. I just want to leave this video, it's not too long I suppose, but I want to leave this video with encouraging everybody who hasn't already watched one of their shows to do so. It is very interesting. They have amazing settings most of the time, and the music is always fantastic, except for Spring Summer 19. That was terrible, but we'll forget about that one. But yeah, I highly recommend everyone to check out this brand if you haven't. I hope I piqued the interest of some of you to check it out. That is mainly my goal with these videos. And yeah, that was about it. Thank you for watching once again. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back. Let me know how the quality is, because I have a feeling it's gonna be a bit better, but we'll see about that. See you next time.